Welcome to the She Suite Society, a community where women from all backgrounds come together to share their stories, support one another, and reveal the unfiltered reality of your lives. I'm your host and empowerment Sherpa, Delia, and this podcast exists to give voice and space to women whose experiences might otherwise go unheard. Today, I'm joined by Stephanie Matthews, a founder of A Tribe for Jazz, whose story beautifully illustrates that sometimes what feels like preparation is actually your purpose unfolding in its own time. Stephanie's journey from trumpet player to photographer to arts leader spans decades of what she now recognizes as divine preparation for the work she was meant to do. What makes Stephanie's story so compelling is her honesty about pushing against doors that wouldn't open during her 22-year photography career, and her eventual revelation that those years weren't wasted. They were preparation. As someone who picked up a camera to document her father during his illness and received his permission to go live your dream, Stephanie embodies the courage it takes to pivot when life forces a shift. Through A Tribe for Jazz, she's created something revolutionary, using jazz not just for entertainment, but as a catalyst for transformation, community building, and healing. Whether you're someone pushing against closed doors, wondering if your path makes sense, or trying to understand how loss can become purpose, Stephanie's journey offers wisdom about trusting the process and giving yourself grace.
I did some research on you. I took a deep dive on you. You started A Tribe for Jazz, but you're a photographer and
Yes.
you're just everywhere. So you're a powerful woman in the scene of music and in the scene of art. And I'm beyond honored to know you and to have you on the podcast.
Stop. I don't even see it that way. Oh my gosh, you're very kind. Thank you for those warm words. I appreciate you. Thank you, Dahlia. Thank
so
you.
excited to learn.
Sure. I'm happy to share.
How did you get to find your love of music?
Well, I think it started. So I picked up the trumpet back in, oh gosh, this was middle school. So I think it started maybe then, being at my grandmother's house after school, taking the bus down there. And there was always jazz playing. And we listened to all types of music. You know, music is such an important part, I think, of everyone's lives. And we all have our soundtrack to our lives. And I started playing an instrument because I love Louis Armstrong. I love the trumpet. And then my brother picked it up too. But anyway, I carried it all the way through high school. And I didn't do anything with it afterwards. But the thing that was the biggest takeaway for me from being in marching band and ensemble and all those things was the collaboration. And that's what helped forge who I am now. I tell everybody I'm a natural collaborator. It is literally baked into who I am and what I do. And I think that's why it makes it a lot easier for me to form partnerships. Because I'm just building community. I'm just building community. We're collaborating. Let's work together. Let's figure out what that looks like. And I think that's harder for some people to do. But for me, it just kind of always came naturally because that's what I took out of the music piece. So a little bit different than maybe what you were expecting in terms of an answer, but that's...
I wasn't expecting anything. That's very, very cool. Did you grow up around here? Where did you grow up?
Columbus. Yeah. So I was born in Houston. We moved here in 79 and grew up on the east side, lived in Berwick, went to Eastmore, went to Johnson Park, went to Eastmore, left and went to the University of Toledo. Thought I was going to study business. Couldn't get past statistics. Oh my God. And they were like, maybe you might want to make a change because I thought I was going to be this international businesswoman. And it's so funny, but I moved over to arts and sciences and communications. And so I actually got a degree in radio and television broadcasting.
Wow.
Yes. And I love public speaking and I loved all of that. So it's funny because I get to use all those skills now.
You do.
It
always comes full circle. Like what you go to school for, there's always a class or two or a professor that'll put you off the path, but then you end up in that industry anyway. So
somehow, yep. Or using those skills, 100%. Nothing's wasted.
Nothing's wasted. Wait a minute. Public speaking, because I did also see that too. You do keynote speeches. You do that kind of everywhere. And every month, I've seen you were a panelist last month.
I was a panelist for Columbus Chamber. That was the inclusion series, and that was around workplace wellness and well-being. It's funny, I haven't done as many public speaking engagements as I would like, and I think this is the year where it's going to start picking up and into 26. I did kick off the year doing a keynote down at Ohio University, which was an honor. I had never done a closing keynote. And it was great. It was a really wonderful moment. And I got to share my story, but it was all about creative resilience. And so I did talk about my life moving from an entrepreneur owning our family's business to being a photographer to moving into arts leadership. And how, again, that idea of we do these things, our paths look weird or different to us, you know what I mean? And we're wondering sometimes, are other people's paths kind of like, a little bit here, a little bit there, but it all connects. I like to view it as an interconnected web. And again, when you think spiritually, nothing truly is wasted. You may not know when you're going to use it, but it always comes back up. At least that's been my experience.
Same here. You just never, and it's kind of beautiful how it happens. Life really is art in so many ways. Do you have siblings?
Yes. 2 brothers. I'm in the middle. My older brother passed away 4 years ago. My younger brother, happily married, children, beautiful family. And so I'm baby girl, and I was born on Father's Day, which was I was a daddy's girl too. But I love my role as a daughter.
And you're very close with your family?
I am. Dad passed away in 2005, but my mother, God bless her, she just turned 79 last month, and is well. She's my twin. If you ever saw us together, people get us confused, and I'm like, but there's this massive age gap, but she looks so good, flawless, totally flawless. And I'm like, that's where I'm headed, so it's good. But she's my girl, my favorite girl. So are you close to your parents too?
Both mine have passed. And
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's part of you talk about resilience, and for me, that was the most pivotal moment. I've had 2 kids, and they're my reason, but I found the rock in myself from losing mine. And so my mom was my rock, was my person. And so losing her was for me that most pivotal moment in my life, where choices are going to be made now because you've got one life to live. And and to your point, you don't want to waste it living a path that you think you should be living. You need to go find your path that you're supposed to be living based on you. And none of that looks the same. And I think a lot of people get sucked into following what everybody else is telling them they should be doing instead of pursuing their own. What you've done and what you've cultivated with a Tribe for Jazz, with your photography, with your speaking, you literally are embodying and living that soul purpose, that life's purpose. How beautiful that is. I just want to know, how did you have a moment like that where it was like choices are going to be made? You're going to have to pivot now.
Tell you, you're gonna make me cry. I can't believe this. I love that. What a natural and wonderful segue. So my dad died in 2005, right? And before he passed, because I was his caregiver, and before he passed, he said, Stephanie, it's time, go and live your dream. That was the permission I needed, right? But let me back up a little bit. A couple years before, when he was first diagnosed, I picked up the camera. That was the first time I picked up the camera. I knew a number of documentary photographers. But this was talking about film now. We're still talking about the film age. We had not made a transition into full digital.
Yeah.
And I wanted to document my father as a way of understanding him as a man and as a person. And I was looking for something, and I don't know what it was. And sometimes I question whether or not I found it, but I do know it pushed me into my purpose. It was the start. And so I had started shooting just everybody and everything. And I did this photo exhibit before he died, and I self-financed it. And one of the things he said, it was called Simply Beautiful, a portrait essay of women. So I photographed and black and white photos of all these women that I knew, different age ranges, cultures, everything. And they did these little short stories about themselves, moments in their lives, and poetry, and had everything framed up and done up, and did a show. And my dad's walking around, and we're standing there, and he's looking at one of the pieces because he was a very analytical mind, chemical engineering, came from that background. And he says, I don't understand it, but I like it. That was it. That's all I needed. He didn't, because he wasn't wired creatively like that, but he was like, but I like it. I don't. And so then when he gave me permission to go and live my dream, I was off to the races. I lived in New York for a while at the beginning of my career. And when I was there, I was doing an internship. I was a 33-year-old intern working for a celebrity fashion photographer. It was wild.
Oh, wow.
Running around the city. Yeah. It wasn't quite Devil Wears Prada, but it was.
It's giving Devil Wears Prada. That's what it's giving. Was it kind of, is that movie on par for you?
A 33-year-old intern. And it's funny because you already have ideas and opinions. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, I need to know I knew anyway. It's a long story. But, long story short, when I was there, I first started, I pushed away from fashion because I didn't want to step into that world. I was interested in beauty. I was interested in portraiture. I was interested in dance. And so photographing dancers all over the country actually was a very healing experience for me. And I did a series called the Every Woman series, The Red Thread. And then there was another one called A Life Cycle of Movements, which both were gallery shows.
How do you come up with these names and these?
The word tells
Yeah,
you.
no, I was scrolling through some of it and it was just so beautiful. I'm like, how? The red thread, that really speaks to me. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So at that time I was, I'd always been close to the Lord, and I'd always been in church and a very spiritual person. But the red thread for me, I was looking for that through line to other people, that connective tissue. And we are all interconnected. And I don't know, it has something to do with that and just, seeking true community, trying to understand people more. When you're living in New York,
Yeah.
it's you're surrounded by millions of people, but it can be very lonely.
Yeah.
And, it gives you a lot of time to think about who you are in the midst of all of that. And then I was searching for all of that. And then also, too, who was my identity? My dad was gone. So,
Was he your rock then?
Yeah, daddy was. Yeah.
In a lot of
And
ways.
then in a lot of ways. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, it shakes you. It does, because it's almost like actually being born again. It actually feels that way, trying to understand who you are without that pillar being there. And who are you to the world? Who were you to them? And it's so beautiful about, for me anyway, the concept of love is whether they're here or not, that love is real and that love is still here and you are still you. If you're anything like me, which possibly you are, maybe, I don't know, you're amazing. So we'll see. Well, thank you. What it forced me to do was lean more into that. More into, they loved me so hard. That means I need to love myself just that same way. Who am I to put up with XYZ that's external? They don't love me that way. I need to be. Is that what you did too?
You know what? I think that's a great point. It took me a while to get there. Which I don't know. It sounds like with you had kind of like that really immediate understanding. And
No.
Ready to that.
Rock bottom.
Okay.
Oh no,
Okay,
I went to some dark places, and music is great.
We had that connection, then we definitely are the same. Yeah. That's. I love the way you phrased that. I had never quite thought of it that way, but I will say, after losing dad, being in New York, coming back home, and just living out my career here, and just traveling as I needed to, I started doing a lot of deep work, and so I did start to uncover a lot within that time. And I now that I think of it, there were some moments I do think were rock bottom where I just was not taking good care of myself, my mind and my spirit and just all of it. But yeah, their love carries us through. I gotta spend some time with that.
Their love is what helps, because you'll get to have some moments where of course we do, we're all human. We have the self-doubt. What are we doing here? What am I doing with whatever it is? For me, possibly this podcast and the speaking and everything else that I do. And you just wonder. And it's what I have found is sitting in that love is what keeps me going regardless. It's no. You can do whatever it is that you want because you are love. You are them. You are still here. And the least you can do is live that way for you and for them. Because they wouldn't want you to do anything different.
Well said. Well said.
That's how it is. And unfortunately, I feel like the club of us have lost the rocks. You can almost spot them in public. You can spot them very easily. How is that? I don't even know if it plays. It probably doesn't, maybe plays into your connectivity. When you're going out, you do connect so well. I saw you have so many people that want to support your cause, everything that you do.
Very grateful.
But I mean, it's obvious. If people meet you, it's pretty obvious. Do you find that feeds into it, into how you connect to people?
I think so. How could it not? I think it's part of, just part of my foundation. It's part of who we are, in our connective tissue. And so, for me, this idea, in business and in the world, there's so much transactional. There's so much transaction-based stuff, and I'm like, I love building the relationships. And I may get pushback from people who are like board members and things like that, because, but I'm like, no, the relationships that I'm building are deep and firm and they're rock solid. And I've built a network in the last 4 years through a Tribe for Jazz that I mean, and I had a wonderful network of collaborators and creatives and clients when I was a full-time photographer. This is on a whole different level, building community. It is
It-
completely different. And I love it. I love it. I want to tell you something. I feel like this is a wonderful space to share this.
Please.
So I do a lot of sitting on my back patio, especially when the weather's cool like it was like the last couple of weeks. And I do journaling and I'm talking to the Lord and just kind of working through some different things. And I had these questions about my life, the 22 years that I was in photography. And I found the revelation that came is that it was a time for me to play and to explore and to create. And I had this amazing grace over my life. And I feel like I always have. And I'm so very thankful. And I got to travel everywhere and meet all of these wonderful people. And it was fun. It was wonderful, right?
Yeah.
But it was also preparation because I'm gonna tell you something. No matter how hard I tried, and I was guilty of striving, to some degree when I was working in photography to get to that next level, those doors wouldn't open. And I mean, call, people at the top could call, and make a real time, say, hey, I'm sending so and so over. And that happened. And those doors still would not open. And so it took years being out of it, right? And just most recently to realize that whole cycle, that whole time of my life was preparation. It was all preparation for what I stepped into when I came into Tribe for Jazz. All of it. I get to use all of it. It was all the readying, the resilience building. It was learn, you could, some people might say, okay, well, it was just you were developing, it was business development. Nope, it was something more.
Yeah.
It was something more. Because everything that's happened in these last 4 years, I've done more. Let me say this. I've done more and been able to accomplish more in terms of impact in these 4 years than I did in 22. And that's the reality. And that's the reality.
Crazy.
But it's good though.
It's good.
So good.
No, I love that you said that because there's so many people, myself included, that keep just trying to bulldoze through things, and they just, what are they made of steel? Like the doors just don't open, and you start to think there's something wrong with you.
Yep.
Like, what is it about me that is not allowed? Like, you have the talent, you have the network, you have the content, but it just won't work because it wasn't supposed to.
It wasn't supposed to.
This wasn't supposed to.
I mean, it wasn't supposed to. And you know what? Because I'm like, oh. And when I had that revelation of that part right there, that it wasn't supposed to, you talking about like, you're talking about perfect peace and like inner peace. So you're like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, yup. But wow, what an experience though. And what's crazy is because it was 22 years.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the Lord is funny because I'm like, you let me dabble off and do all this stuff for 22 years. I'm out there and I'm doing, and people are like, they thinking, you're in New York all the time or I'm overseas or whatever, and at some point it actually became work, and that wasn't fun. And when the joy started leaving it. And there's something very interesting. I try to tell people, you have to be very careful about overstaying a season in your job, in your profession, in whatever you're doing. You have to know when the forces are telling you it's time to move on. It can be very dangerous mentally, psychologically, because that's when it's like almost like the grace isn't over that part anymore. And that started happening where I was like, okay, yeah. And then the pandemic happened, and then that was the shift.
For you, okay, it was the pandemic that it forced you. That's the thing. If you don't listen, I'm a terrible listener at my own signs too. I'm going to keep going. What do you mean I got to stop? It takes a pandemic to shut everything. It will force you to shift. It'll force you to look at things a different way, and then get creative. Because what do you do when your whole I don't want to say your whole identity, but a good chunk of your identity and standing of work was in one career path. And you no longer can pursue. Well, you still do it, I'm sure, but you can no longer pursue that full. Do you still?
Not really. Not really. I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got a client. I've got one client coming up, but I don't advertise. I don't push that anymore because and this this will likely be one of my last shoots that I do because it's not there
No,
anymore for me.
you
I've
did
moved
that.
on.
You
I
did
did
that.
that. I did that. Yeah.
And now you're doing so much with that. And you're right. You're so right. A lot of the times, all those things, it's preparing you for it. What's so interesting though is people look at it so differently. You're the first
Mhm.
person I've heard that said what I thought. But we always have that really evil person in the back of our head
Yep.
saying, "No, it wasn't preparing. You didn't know, just weren't good enough." Like, it's whatever. Tell that girl to shut up and keep moving.
Tell her to shut up because I'm telling you, because yeah, a lot of times it was wild. It was to the degree where I look back on it now and I'm like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious looking back on it. I'm like, oh, Stephanie, yeah, you were just a knucklehead pushing forward, just bulldozing, trying to bulldoze it forward. And I'm like, but there were clear signs. There were clear signs. And so yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
And sometimes
love
and if we leave when we're supposed to, we weren't even supposed to experience some of those pains.
that's true.
That's why you got to know when to go.
You do got to know when to go. And if you overstay, though, I think you still learn things.
100%.
I don't think that any move you make, I think everything you do in your life
Mm-hmm.
is literally preparing you for something. But it will force you out. And you're not wrong on that. It will
Yeah.
force you to move. It still hurts. It's still
Sure.
painful when you make the shift, because I don't know anybody that has change happen and it's just glorious. Like, change, literally everything, like birth. Every birth is painful but beautiful. It's
Yep.
the same thing, right? Pain but beauty and pain, pretty synonymous. Well, talk about just a little bit about what you're doing with the jazz efforts, because I
Mhm.
see there's a residency here. Is that right?
What are you talking about? Which post? We do a residency. Yeah, we do. Well, when we're in season with our concert season. Yeah, last year we had a residency. We had Tyrone Allen from Brooklyn and then George Delancey, two bassists. This year it's going to look a little bit different. But we have our Columbus International Jazz Series. We have Jazz Lab, which is in the education space. There's Exploration, which is around emotional wellness. We've got the new NAP concert coming up, and that's something that we're stepping into that space. We like to use music. Music is an incredible catalyst, and jazz most certainly, because of its properties. Let me say it this way, because I don't want to get caught up in the neuroscience. I do want to talk about the neuroscience.
Go there.
But
I'm with you.
jazz as a genre
Yeah.
is the original American art form. Absolutely incredible, birthed from enslaved people and free men and the Caribbean and all of that coming together down in New Orleans. And the history is incredible. And jazz means a lot of different things to different people. You ask somebody from New York or somebody from Southside Chicago or New Orleans, you're going to get, different, ideas or definitions of it. But what I love about it is there is that inclusion and community and resilience, and there's all of that in the music, and there's these jazz musicians were innovators, and it's just an incredible art form that's endured. And so we use it as a catalyst for transformation. How do you bring more people together? How do you create greater access to the arts? We do free concerts. We put on music that isn't normally played here in this market. It's different from Jazz and Rib Fest or what other organizations might be offering. And these younger up and coming, they've got a different style, different voice. How can you use jazz to impact education outside of just music education? Well, for me, it was then looking at the neuroscience of it. What's happening in the body, in the brain, and in here when you're listening to this music? Well, I can tell you, the science can tell you too. It's activating creativity and innovation. It can help with things, reduce anxiety, unlock memories, reduce blood pressure. It helps people with Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm interested in all of that. But I'm also interested in, it being a gateway to bring children into the work, because our mission is preserving the legacy and it's advancing the future. Advancing the future is the youth.
Yeah.
And we just do it a little bit differently, and then with like exploration is around, improvisational jazz, mindfulness, collaborative arts, and discussion. And it's this beautiful half or full day workshop. And through it, it's a capacity builder, because when it's unlocking those emotions and then you get into those really intimate conversations with your teammates or whatever, you're getting greater team cohesion because people are being authentic. And so there's this really wonderful power of the music, not only just for entertainment, but I always knew it had to be more than just entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I wanted to explore through A Tribe for Jazz. present the work, present the artists and their stories and all of those wonderful things, and use that as a catalyst to create all this other programming.
That's amazing.
And
It is a twist, but it's, I think, more of an exposure, and how you're using it is just so brilliant. Do these artists find you?
Oh, we find them. Building community. So yeah, it's interesting because all the young, these young, hot, up and coming musicians, they're the ones, they're the future of the genre. And it's funny because you know how like it's 6 degrees of separation, but in Columbus it's really 3.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even 2. In the jazz world, it's probably like 2 or 1. Everybody knows everybody, or you can get to other people through, so we just started building a network. And it's all about character, though. We're very specific about who we're working with because it's about the character of the person. And, more than just being like-minded, we're doing that deep dive into them too, just as much as it's got to be more than just like, oh, I'm booking talent.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're building community.
Yeah.
And so when they come, we treat our artists like kings and queens. You get the full service. And often the takeaway for them is they'll tell us, they're like, that's the best I've ever been treated. From the time they arrive at the airport and the car comes to the time they leave, we're hands on. So it's just about showing the love.
Nice. Out of curiosity, and I don't know why it just popped in my head. One of the things I talk a lot about when I do my speaking engagements is about removing the titles and the labels given to you. Because that is what I think gets in the way. Do you give yourself labels now in this healed? And I think healing is always a journey that we're just going to live with forever.
Yep.
Do you give yourself labels now? Do you find people doing that with you now? 'Cause something tells me no.
That's a great question. If I'm hearing you right, okay. So my answer is people are still trying to figure out where to put us. So they've not labeled us.
Yeah. Okay.
They've not labeled us. Yeah. Us as an organization, or just me myself?
You as not talking about your organization. You are more than your organization.
I'll share this. I find labels to be hard for me, right? But one of the things that has come out through doing this work is I did realize that I was seeing myself too small. And I was seeing myself too small. And so the journey the Lord has had me going through actually has been, how do I see myself as He sees me? And so sometimes we do have to use the worldly labels so that we understand, right?
Yeah.
But I've never been using those labels myself. People say stuff like, it's kind of embarrassing though sometimes, whatever. I don't know, they'll say visionary and things like that or whatever. And I'm like, that's cool. I am executing a vision that's been given to me. You know what I mean? And so if that is by definition what it is, then that's fine. But I don't buy into stuff like that.
Right. You don't assign them to you. And however people see you is their problem, not yours.
Yeah. Or not a problem at all. I'm like,
it's not a problem. It's their decision.
Their decision, 100%. But I will tell you though, we do have to see ourselves in a very big way. It's important because I'm telling you, when I said I thought of myself in a very small way, but when you're moving on to other levels and, you're trying to take something statewide and then nationwide and globally or whatever, you have to start looking. You have to zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if label's the right word. What other word can we find, Dahlia?
I know. I don't
hate that word.
I hate the word because I hate what it represents. But it's not a label. I'm going to have to think on that one.
Yeah. But it's something, though. It's
something. Yeah, I'm going to write that down because I'm going to follow up that with you. Like, I am going to follow up. Do you still play the trumpet?
No. I picked up my nephew's trumpet a couple of months ago. I don't have the chops for it. And I couldn't even remember how to read music. I was like, oh, it's definitely, those days are long gone. But
I'm sure it's somewhere in there.
It maybe. But if I could put instruments in the hands of a million kids, I most certainly would. And, music education, extremely important. But even if they didn't become professional musicians, just the opportunity to unlock that mathematics and scientific side of their brains, which happens through music, playing music, and even engaging in it. So yeah.
I like to end every episode, even though the whole episode is exactly advice. I like to end it with, if you could give listeners any advice on anything, what would it be?
So it may seem very obvious, Dahlia, but we have to learn to give ourselves more grace with where we are in whatever season we find ourselves. The pushing, the striving, the hustling, all of those things is not the way. It's the silence and the quiet and the thinking and finding time to hear the strategy from within or from however you feel like you receive it. For me, I know my source, and I know where it all comes from, and however people receive that. But it's and the reason I'm saying grace is because I'm 52, right? And I could have looked at those 22 years as lost.
Yeah.
I could have chosen to say it was all a waste. What was this? If that wasn't the, whatever. No, it's grace, and to allow yourself understanding that was preparation. For me, it was preparation. And now I'm into my work, my purpose work. And I don't know if I gave you the full answer. I hope I said something there that's useful.
Oh my gosh.
But it does have to do with the grace, though. It
And
has
you're
to
so
do with
right.
the
You're absolutely right about giving yourself grace. What's interesting about that is every year I come up with a word, and that's what I try to embody that year. And the year that I went through a lot of change was in 22. That year, my word was grace. And it meant no matter what I encountered, I was going to forgive myself.
Yes.
Left and right for being human.
Yes.
But then once you know better, you do better. So it's the kind of combination of it all, which to me equals grace. And so I
100%.
I love that you said that.
It's
and
good.
I'm so thankful you joined today and talked about everything.
Wonderful.
It's just so empowering. Your entire story is so empowering, and I can't thank you enough for sharing that today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
What moves me most about Stephanie's story is her understanding that nothing in life is wasted. Every experience, even the painful ones, become preparation for what's next. Her revelation that her 22 years in photography were preparing her for the impact she's making now through a tribe for jazz speaks to something so many of us struggle with, trusting that our seemingly disconnected experiences will eventually make sense. Stephanie's advice to give ourselves grace resonates deeply because it acknowledges that we often judge our journeys harshly when we should be honoring the preparation process. Her reminder that we need to know when seasons are ending before the joy leaves is wisdom many of us learned too late, myself included. I'm particularly struck by how she's transformed personal loss into community building. The way she's using jazz as a catalyst for healing, education, and connection shows what's possible when we stop pushing against closed doors and start walking through the ones that open naturally. For those of you sitting with experiences that feel disconnected or wondering if you've wasted time on the wrong path, maybe Stephanie's story is permission to see your journey as preparation rather than detour. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is grace for where we are and trust for where we're going. If today's conversation inspired you to reconsider your own journey with more compassion, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, She Suite Society exists to amplify women's voices from all walks of life, proving that purpose often emerges from the most unexpected places. Until next time, this is your host, Dahlia, reminding you that your life is your message to the world. Why not make it extraordinary?